He stood in front of 312 exhausted employees and said there was no money for bonuses. The first time our CEO said the company was one family, half the office believed him. The last time he said it, nobody clapped. His name was Michael Valens, founder and chief executive of ValePoint Systems, a logistics software company that had grown too fast, hired too aggressively, and sold investors a dream it could barely deliver. I was Olivia Hart, senior accountant, 38 years old, invisible by profession and underestimated by habit. People like Marcus loved people like me. Not because we were respected, because we were useful. For 11 months, the entire company had been living inside emergency mode. Sales had promised features engineering had not built. Engineering had built systems support was not trained to explain. Support absorbed angry clients. Finance stretched payment terms until vendors started calling twice a day. And through all of it, Marcus kept repeating the same sentence. "Push through this quarter and I'll make sure everyone is rewarded." He said it at all hands meetings. He said it in Slack announcements. He said it while walking through the office with his $4,000 watch flashing under the lights, telling exhausted employees they were building something historic. So people pushed. Parents missed weekends with their children. Engineers slept on couches in conference rooms. Customer success managers answered emails at midnight. One junior analyst postponed her honeymoon because Marcus personally told her, "The company needs warriors right now." By December, everyone was tired, pale, and quietly waiting for one thing: the bonus. It wasn't greed, it was repair. People had counted on that money to pay debt, cover rent, replace savings, survive the holidays, or simply prove the sacrifice had meant something. The all-hands meeting was scheduled for Friday at 4 p.m. That alone should have warned us. Marcus stepped onto the small stage in the cafeteria, wearing a dark blue suit and the soft, practiced expression of a man preparing to disappoint people while calling it leadership. Behind him, a slide appeared. Fiscal responsibility in uncertain times. Nobody moved. He folded his hands. "I want to start by saying how proud I am of every single one of you." A few people stared at the floor. "This year has tested us. Market conditions have shifted. Client payments have slowed. Operating costs have risen. And despite our incredible effort, we have to make difficult decisions." Then he paused. Not long enough for suspense. Long enough for guilt to settle on us before he delivered the sentence. "There will be no annual bonuses this year." A sound moved through the room. Not a gasp, not anger, something worse. Deflation. Like the entire company exhaled at once and lost the last part of itself. Marcus raised both hands gently. "I know this is painful. Believe me, nobody feels this more than I do." That was the first lie that made me look up. He continued, "I have taken steps personally to reduce executive expenses. We are all sharing the burden." That was the second lie, and I knew it before I could prove it. Because 2 weeks earlier, I had seen a transfer request flagged in our internal review system. It was coded as Strategic Vendor Development. The amount was too round. The vendor was too new. The approval chain was too clean. $4.8 million. Authorized by Marcus. Routed through an entity called North Meridian Holdings. At the time, I had asked our controller, Dennis, whether he wanted me to investigate it. Dennis lowered his voice and said, "Leave that one alone." So I did, for exactly 13 days. After the meeting, nobody went back to work. They returned to desks, opened laptops, and stared at screens without typing. I watched Maya from support wipe her eyes in the break room. I watched Theo from engineering delete a vacation request he had already told his kids about. I watched Daniel from sales sit perfectly still with his hands folded, as if moving would make him scream. Marcus sent a company-wide email at 5:12 p.m. Subject line, a message of gratitude. It was 3 paragraphs of polished emptiness. He thanked us for resilience. He mentioned macroeconomic pressure. He promised future upside. Then he signed it, with appreciation, Marcus. I read it twice. Then I opened the finance drive. I didn't know what I was looking for yet. Only that somewhere in the numbers, there was a shape pretending to be something else. The first photo appeared on Monday morning. It was posted by an influencer named Lila Cross, whose job seemed to involve wearing linen on expensive objects. The caption read, "First weekend aboard the New Dream. Thank you, Em. You always do impossible things." In the photo, she stood barefoot on the deck of a massive white yacht. Behind her, champagne bottles lined a glass table. A man's arm was visible around her waist. The watch on that wrist was impossible to miss. Marcus Valens wore the same watch at every investor meeting. By 9:30, the photo had spread through private Slack messages. By 10:15, someone found a second photo. Marcus himself was in it, laughing beside the yacht's name, Second Wind. By 10:40, everyone knew the estimated price, $38 million. The office changed after that. No shouting, no rebellion. Just silence with teeth. Marcus did not come in that day. His assistant said he was in external meetings. At 11:07, HR posted a reminder about professionalism and confidentiality. At 11:21, the photo disappeared from the influencer's profile. At 11:32, the company's Slack channel was locked. That was when I opened a blank document and typed one sentence. Timeline of transactions potentially related to executive misuse of corporate funds. I did not write yacht. Not yet. Accountants learn early. Emotion makes noise, but records make history. I started with North Meridian Holdings. The company had been created 8 months earlier in Delaware. That alone meant nothing. Marcus had dozens of entities for investments, acquisitions, consulting arrangements, and tax planning. But North Meridian had no website, no listed employees, no service agreement in our vendor folder, no contract in legal. And yet, ValePoint had paid it 7 times in 9 months. The descriptions were vague: strategic vendor development, executive market research, client hospitality infrastructure, deferred partnership planning. The total was $11.6 million. I exported the ledger. Then I pulled approval notes. Every transfer had been approved by Marcus. 3 had been second approved by Dennis, the controller. But Dennis had not typed the approval comments himself. I knew that because Dennis always wrote like a man allergic to punctuation. These comments were clean, polished, and identical in rhythm. I checked metadata. The comments were entered from Marcus's admin account. That made me stop breathing for a moment. Not because it proved everything. Because it proved someone had been careless. Careless people leave doors open. For the next 3 nights, I stayed late. Officially, I was closing deferred revenue schedules. Unofficially, I was following the money. I found invoices from North Meridian. They were beautiful. Too beautiful. Perfectly formatted, softly branded, language vague enough to mean anything, and specific enough to pass a lazy audit. But the bank details changed on the 5th invoice. The receiving account belonged to a maritime asset management firm in Monaco. That was the first real thread. From there, everything began to move faster. One transfer to Monaco, another to a legal trust, another to a luxury interiors contractor, another to a marine electronics company. All of them hidden under expense categories that sounded boring enough to avoid attention. Vendor onboarding optimization, European Client Expansion, Executive Communications Platform. Then I found the invoice that made my hands go cold. Custom Vessel Communications Suite, Project SW38M SW. Second Wind, 38 million. I sat alone in the finance office at 11:46 p.m., staring at the screen while the cleaning crew vacuumed around me. There are moments when truth stops feeling dramatic and becomes administrative. A yacht does not appear out of nowhere. It is purchased in parts, deposits, legal fees, insurance, crew retainers, docking arrangements, custom interiors, satellite systems. All of it leaves a trail. Marcus had not stolen one giant amount. He had drained the company slowly, politely, through boring labels and obedient approvals. Then he had looked 312 employees in the eye and told them there was no money. The next morning, Dennis called me into his office. He closed the door. His blinds were already shut. "Olivia," he said carefully, "what files were you accessing last night?" I looked at him. "Finance files." "Which finance files?" "The ones finance maintains." He swallowed. Dennis was not a villain. That was the saddest part. He was a weak man with a mortgage, a sick wife, and a boss who knew exactly where to press. He leaned forward. "I'm telling you this for your own good. Stop digging." "Into what?" His face tightened. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Act like you don't understand." I waited. He rubbed his forehead. "You have a good job here." "Do I?" "Marcus can make things difficult." I smiled slightly. "For me?" Dennis looked away. That was the answer. When I left his office, my hands were steady. Fear is strange. Before something happens, fear can paralyze you. After it happens, fear becomes structure. You know where the walls are. You know what the threat is. And if you are very lucky, you know exactly what kind of evidence you need. For the next 6 days, I built the package. Not accusations, evidence. A chronological transfer map, copies of invoices, approval logs, metadata screenshots, bank routing changes, vendor registration records, internal emails where Marcus publicly denied executive spending, the all-hands transcript, the bonus cancellation email, photos of the yacht, public maritime registry documents tying Second Wind to a holding company, that holding company tied to North Meridian, North Meridian tied to ValePoint's corporate accounts. I included one page at the front, a simple table. Employee bonus pool originally approved, $9.4 million. Total payments to North Meridian Holdings, $11.6 million. Estimated yacht purchase and customization trail, $38 million. Executive statement to employees. We are all sharing the burden. I printed nothing at work. I copied nothing onto a company device. I used public records where possible and internal records only where legally relevant to financial misconduct. Then I did one more thing. I added payroll data. Not individual salaries, just totals. I showed what the canceled bonuses would have meant. Average employee bonus, $30,128. Median employee bonus, $18,400. Customer support average, $8,900. Warehouse systems team average, $11,300. Engineering retention pool, $2.1 million. Then I added one final page, a list of employees who had resigned in the week after the announcement, 9 names. By then, Marcus had returned to the office. He acted wounded, not guilty, wounded. At the next all-hands, he stood before us and said, "There has been a lot of inappropriate speculation online." Nobody blinked. He continued, "My private life is not company business." Maya from support looked down at her hands. Theo from engineering laughed once under his breath. Marcus heard it. His eyes moved across the room and stopped on me. For 1 second, his expression changed. Not fear, recognition. He realized the quiet people were not always harmless. After the meeting, his assistant appeared at my desk. "Marcus would like to see you." The office went still around me. I stood, smoothed my jacket, and followed her. Marcus's office looked over the river. He liked that view because it made him feel above movement, above traffic, above people. He did not ask me to sit. "Olivia," he said warmly, "I hear you've been working very late." "Yes." "Dedicated as always." I said nothing. He walked to the window. "I know emotions are high right now. People are disappointed. They want someone to blame." He turned back. "You're smart enough to understand how dangerous misinformation can be." "I agree." His smile thinned. "Good." He stepped closer to his desk. "Then you also understand that accessing executive financial materials without authorization can create serious consequences." "There are access logs," I said. "They'll show I accessed finance records within my role." "For what purpose?" "Reviewing vendor irregularities." His eyes hardened. "There are no irregularities." I looked at him for a long moment. That was the mistake powerful people make. They think denial is a wall. But to someone with documents, denial is just another exhibit. He lowered his voice. "You have been valuable to this company. I would hate for one misunderstanding to damage your future." There it was. Not a threat, not exactly. A velvet rope around a cliff. I nodded. "Is there anything else?" He studied me. "You should take the rest of the day." "Am I being suspended?" "Of course not." "Then I'll return to my desk." His jaw flexed. I walked out. At 6:03 p.m. I sent the package. Not to one person, to 6. Every independent board member, the audit committee chair, outside counsel, the external audit partner, and, because Marcus loved silence so much, the whistleblower intake address listed in our corporate governance policy. Subject line: urgent, potential misappropriation of corporate funds and false employee compensation statements. Then I shut my laptop. For the first time in nearly a year, I slept 8 hours. The next morning, Marcus was not in the office. Dennis was. He looked like he had aged 10 years overnight. At 9:12 a.m., the board chair entered the building with 2 attorneys I had never seen before. At 9:19, they went into the main conference room. At 9:26, IT locked Marcus's account. At 9:31, Dennis ran to the bathroom and threw up. By 10 o'clock, the entire office knew something had happened. By noon, there was an emergency meeting. This time, Marcus was not on the stage. The board chair was. Her name was Evelyn Shaw, 71 years old, silver-haired, calm in a way that made everyone else sit straighter. She did not smile. "I know the last several weeks have been painful," she said. Nobody moved. Effective immediately, Marcus Valens has been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of an independent investigation. The room changed. Not loud, not relieved, just awake. Evelyn continued. "The board has also authorized an immediate review of executive expenditures, vendor payments, and compensation decisions made in the previous fiscal year." A hand went up in the back. It was Maya. Her voice shook. "What about the bonuses?" Evelyn looked at her. For the first time, something human crossed her face. "We are reviewing that decision as well." The meeting ended after 7 minutes. But those 7 minutes did what Marcus had failed to do for months. They made people believe someone was finally looking at the truth. 3 days later, Dennis resigned. 2 days after that, Marcus's photo disappeared from the leadership page. 1 week later, an internal memo announced that the company had retained a forensic accounting firm. They interviewed me for 5 hours. I answered every question: where I found the records, how I verified metadata, why I believed the payments were connected, whether I had shared the information outside authorized channels. I had not. One attorney asked, "Why did you continue after being warned?" I said, "Because employees were told there was no money. The records suggested otherwise." He wrote that down. The investigation took 34 days. During that time, Marcus tried to fight. Of course he did. He claimed the yacht was personally financed. Then investigators found the deposit trail. He claimed North Meridian was a legitimate vendor. Then they asked for deliverables. He claimed Dennis approved everything independently. Then metadata showed Marcus's admin credentials on the approvals. He claimed the company was financially distressed. Then the board found the bonus pool had been reserved, approved, and later quietly reclassified. Reclassified. That word spread through the office like fire. The money had existed. It had been moved. Marcus had not canceled bonuses because there was no budget. He had canceled bonuses because he wanted the budget for himself. On a Thursday morning in February, we received another all-company email. This one was not from Marcus. Subject line: Compensation Correction and Governance Update. I read it at my desk while everyone around me did the same. The board had concluded that the prior bonus cancellation was not supported by accurate financial representation. The company would issue the originally approved bonuses, plus a supplemental hardship payment for employees below a certain salary threshold, plus extra retention grants for teams most affected by the decision. Nobody cheered at first. People just stared. Then Maya began crying. Theo leaned back in his chair and covered his face. Daniel from sales whispered, "Oh my God." And somewhere in the building, someone started clapping. One person, then 5, then 20, then the entire floor. I did not clap. I sat quietly looking at the email. Not because I wasn't moved, because I was thinking of the first all-hands meeting, the slide, the phrase, fiscal responsibility, the way Marcus had stood before exhausted people and asked them to accept betrayal as sacrifice. Power rarely announces itself as cruelty. Most of the time, it arrives as a memo. 3 weeks later, Marcus officially resigned. The press release said he was leaving to focus on personal matters. Nobody believed it. A month later, lawsuits began. Shareholders sued. A vendor sued. Several employees filed claims. Regulators requested documents. The yacht was impounded pending litigation. That was the detail everyone loved. Second Wind never made it to its second voyage. The influencer deleted every photo, then posted a quote about protecting her peace. The internet did not protect it for her. Screenshots live forever. On my last day at ValePoint, Evelyn Shaw called me into the same office Marcus once used to threaten me. The river still moved beyond the glass. The desk had been replaced, so had the chair. Evelyn gestured for me to sit. "We'd like you to stay," she said. I folded my hands. "I know." "We can offer a new title, Director of Internal Controls. More authority, more pay." I looked around the office. For nearly a year, I had watched good people give pieces of their lives to a company that called them family while preparing to abandon them. I had helped expose the truth. But I did not want to spend the next chapter guarding the same walls. "Thank you," I said. "But I'm leaving." Evelyn nodded slowly. "I thought you might." She slid an envelope across the desk. Inside was a letter. A formal commendation from the board. Clean language, careful language. But one line stayed with me. "Your actions protected employees, shareholders, and the integrity of the company's financial reporting." I almost laughed. Integrity always sounds so polished after people bleed for it. When I walked out, the office stood. Not everyone, but enough. Maya hugged me first, then Theo, then Daniel. Even people I barely knew came up and said quiet things. "Thank you. You saved my family. I was going to quit, My bonus paid my medical bill. My kids got Christmas late. That was when I finally understood what Marcus never had. A bonus is not just money. It is a promise. And when leaders break promises to people who trusted them, they do not just damage morale. They teach everyone to stop believing. 6 months later, I started my own forensic accounting practice. Small at first, just me, one laptop, and a very plain website. The first inquiry came from a nonprofit, the second from a manufacturing company, the third from a group of employees who had been told their pension contributions were delayed due to market conditions. I knew that sentence. Different company, same smell. One evening, I received a message from an unknown number. No greeting, just a photo. Marcus Valens, standing outside a courthouse, older, thinner, surrounded by reporters. Below it, one sentence. They seized the yacht. I stared at the image for a long time. Then I deleted it. Not because I didn't care, because revenge was never the point. Truth was. People like Marcus think they can hide theft behind complexity, behind shell companies, behind board language, behind tired employees too afraid to question the people above them. But money has a memory. Every transfer leaves a footprint. Every approval has a timestamp. Every lie eventually meets someone patient enough to read the fine print. Marcus thought he had cut our bonuses to buy himself freedom. Instead, he bought evidence. And when the photos leaked, everyone saw the yacht. But I saw the numbers. That was his real mistake. He forgot that the quiet accountant he ignored was the only person in the building who knew how to make money talk.
Select now another video in our series of family and company dramas. They are all powerful stories of people coming back stronger after they have been humiliated or hurt by family members or their management. Always make sure you stay strong. Let nobody ever tell you what you are worth. You know the best. Of course.